Hi, I'm Carol Dow Richards with the Aphasia Recovery Connection, and we work as a nonprofit to help families dealing with aphasia to learn, to share, and connect on Facebook, on virtual connections, and at events. And we are really excited that we are now helping work with games. This is quite exciting. So let's learn more. So first, I wanted to just share a little bit about myself, and that is that my introduction to aphasia came because my own son had a stroke and was unable to speak, read, or write. He'd been in the gifted program. Aphasia was incredibly disabling, so I get aphasia, and David will also be involved with us with Aphasia Games for Health. But let's learn more now about aphasia. So first we'll talk about what is aphasia friendly. So we want to ensure that there is communication access for people with aphasia in social connectedness. So we all know what physical ramps are. So if somebody's in a wheelchair, there's a ramp that helps them get up to the curb. So when we look at aphasia friendly games, we're looking at communication access. How do we build those ramps for communication? So we're going to talk about that. Let's start with what is aphasia? Well, aphasia is an invisible communication disability that may affect a person's ability to speak, read, write, or process language. Now, I want to stop right there for a second. Keep in mind that some people can read, but they can't write. Some people can speak, but they can't spell, read, or write. Others struggle to process language. So no two people with aphasia are ever exactly alike. It's sort of like a fingerprint. The damage that causes aphasia is usually from the left side of the brain. And that part of the brain controls the language center with reading, writing, speaking, numbers, spelling, alphabet, all of that is stored there. So a lot depends on the size and the location of the damage in the brain. However, we want to keep in mind with people with aphasia, their intellect is intact. So aphasia is a loss of language, not intellect. So we want to treat people with aphasia like the adults that they are. And aphasia is usually caused by a stroke or a brain injury, but it could also be from a brain tumor or for some other reasons as well. I think we would be remiss if when we define aphasia, we didn't also look at how isolating it is. Imagine if you didn't speak Japanese and I put you in Japan and you couldn't order a cup of coffee, or you couldn't read or write or take a text. Imagine how frustrating that would be all day long. That would be pretty frustrating. So aphasia is often isolating. People with aphasia often feel marginalized. People are often excluded from social engagement, like games. So what can we do about it? Well, first, we want to keep in mind that it's more than just the design of the game. It's also, we need to consider the play elements and the social engagement. And all of those things coming together help people with aphasia not only socially engage, but also practice some of their communication skills. So now we come to the really important part of my presentation, and that is aphasia-friendly tips. So let's talk about reading and writing and spelling and talking and listening and all of that, because many of those things are impacted. So first, let's talk about reading and writing. So when we're designing materials, we usually want to use a larger font, about 14 in size. Also, it's helpful to use a sans serif font. You'll notice in the lower part of this slide is sans serif. The upper part, see how the little curly cues at the end of the lettering? Sometimes that makes it more difficult for a person with aphasia to read. Now, not everybody, but some people. Also, remember that some people can't read at all, so using visuals or emojis is incredibly helpful for people with aphasia. I also like to suggest that we highlight key points in bold. And probably my most important tip that I would say is we want to use signposts. We want to use signposts both with anything that somebody is going to read or that they're going to listen to. What do I mean by signpost? It means just like when you read a book, there's a chapter title. You know what the chapter is, and then the content comes. So often we get excited about things and we just start talking. Please give people with aphasia a signpost. So here's how to score the game. Then you give the content, but you gave the signpost at the beginning. Now let's talk about speaking and listening for people with aphasia. So avoiding background noise for most people with aphasia is important. So if we were having a big group of people playing games, we probably would not want to have background noise like music. Most will find that more challenging. Another thing is like side conversations. Too many people talking all at one time can be very distracting for people with aphasia. You want to speak clearly and at a normal rate of speech and pausing between sentences. Not too fast, not too slow. You want to use short, clear, concise sentences. And that would go when you're writing out directions or preparing written material for people with aphasia as well. If you're speaking to them, you want to ask one question at a time. Don't be asking lots and lots of questions. Now, here's a really hard part. And this video is going to pause for just a moment, but I want you to listen. When you are speaking to someone with aphasia and you are waiting for their response, be patient. So what I often do if I were to say to someone with aphasia, what do you like best about the game? Now, ideally, I would give them some choices. That makes it a lot easier for them. If I said, what do you like best about the game? That's very open-ended. They may have to come up with it. It might be challenging for some. So you might say, what do you like best about the game? The number of players, that it was really fun. Did you like that it was timed? Give them some choices. Or you might even say, did you like this, this, or this? And they can say, I like this if they're nonverbal. But the other thing that I wanted to mention when you speak to someone with aphasia, if you're waiting for them to answer you, here's the hard part. You need to be patient. I often say that one of the best techniques when talking to someone with aphasia is when you talk to them, then wait for a count of 5 or 10. It starts to get uncomfortable, doesn't it? But that's what we need to do. We need to be patient because so often, because we're not patient, we just rush in and we start to either answer for them or talk for them or talk over them. And really what they're doing is they're getting the word almost to the tip of their tongue and then somebody interrupts. So we need to learn to get really comfortable with that 5 or 10 seconds of silence. Also, when you're speaking to people with aphasia, use more facial gestures, the tone of your voice, pointing, using objects. Anything that you can do to give any visual support is often really helpful. And showing them what you are talking about. You want to be very clear and concise, and also you don't want to speak for too long at any one period. One thing that I have learned with my son and other people with aphasia is people with aphasia like and appreciate breaks. They like breaks. Sometimes they just need that quiet time. I have had conferences that I've conducted where sometimes people with aphasia will actually like go hide in the bathroom just because they need some quiet time just by themselves. So keep that in mind. Also, there's something called neurofatigue. So people with aphasia sometimes tire out easier. It's not the same as being tired like you or me. Neurofatigue is because their brain is working so hard to keep up with what we're doing that it's exhausting for them. So that's why we don't want to overload them with too much information, all coming way, way, way too fast. And finally, I'm really excited about the stakeholders in this project. One of my favorite sayings is nothing about us without us. And I'm so excited that this project is bringing together people with aphasia from the very beginning, from design to game testing to play, as well as the game designers and aphasia experts. So welcome everyone who's going to be participating. What I say now is game on. Let's get this done.